everybody, welcome back to my channel and another Beans Bag and Handicrafts Co. tutorial. Today we are going to be making the Isolina bag. I looked up the pronunciation. I know a couple of the other bags I pronounced wrong, so I want to make sure I get them right. So this is the Isolina bag, and it's really cool when Alexis chooses her patterns and names them. She says what the name means. So Isolina means she who is gazed upon. So this bag is definitely going to make whoever gets it gazed upon. It is such an amazing pattern. I've never seen anything like it anywhere. It's not a super big bag. I'd say it's between small and medium. But the features of it are just amazing. Let me show you some of them before we get started. So this here is a faux flap, but behind it you have a slip pocket here and another one here for your cell phone. So there's two hidden pockets in behind there, which is awesome. There is a ton of decorative work on this with rivets and how the straps are done, and I don't know, I just can't even with how beautiful this bag is. So it's got a top zip closure, and when you open it up, you have one slip pocket here, your zipper pocket. I did do my zipper pocket a little bit different because I like to have the vinyl overlay. And then on this opposite side here, you have two larger slip pockets and then a skinnier one for pens or what have you. So yeah, it has a crossbody strap. It's got shorter straps here. Yeah, I have no words for how beautiful the Isolina bag is. So I did the front in cotton, like a quilting cotton. This is an Allison glass fabric, and my faux leather is a Mora faux leather from Emmeline Bags. This is the charcoal one, and I used rainbow thread from Wizardry, I think it's called. The majority of my hardware is also from Emmeline Bags, except for the zipper and the zipper pull are from Blue Cala. To interface this, oh, and my interior is fabric I picked up from Fabricland. I have no idea what it's called, but it's a quilting cotton as well. All my cotton pieces are interfaced with SF101, which I have a link below if you need to buy some. I do sell it on my website. My external pieces are interfaced with Decovil Lite. Again, I do sell that on my website. All those links are below. If you're looking to buy some, you can go there. And yeah, that's about it. So this is what we're going to be making, and thank you again, Alexis, for letting me do tutorials on your wonderful, amazing designs. There's not an Oro Rosa pattern that I do not like yet. It just, the talent behind Alexis's mind just blows my mind. So without further ado, let's get going on the Isolina bag. Okay, so let's talk pieces that we have cut and our hardware and everything we're going to need to make this bag. Again, this is my first time making this bag, so I'm sure I'll make mistakes along the way, but I think it's going to be fun. Let's start with hardware. So first off, it calls for medium and large rivets. So I get my rivets from Emmeline Bags. I'm using iridescent hardware. So my medium rivets are 9mm by 8mm, and my large are 9mm by 10mm. So we'll need those. I'm going to need two zipper pulls and number 5 zipper tape. You're going to need a swivel, or not a swivel, a slider, 1-inch slider. 1, 2, 3, 4 1-inch rectangle rings. And I'm making my crossbody strap detachable. I just prefer to have that option that I can take it on and off. So I've added in 2 1-inch D-rings, 2 1-inch swivel clasps. I have a metal zipper end. Again, if you don't have metal zipper ends, you can always make your own zipper ends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 strap ends as well. Again, all of my hardware from Emmeline Bags. And then of course you'll need your handmade tag or your logo. cut pieces. I have two connectors, which I have Decovil Lite fused to the middle of those. I have my back connectors. Actually, these connectors are for my crossbody strap. These are my side connectors. Again, a piece of Decovil Lite fused to the middle of those. I have my main back panel and lining. On my main panel, I have my Decovil Lite fused centered to the back of that. And then I have my lining pieces, and I just have SF101 as my woven interfacing on the back of those. My main front panel, and I have Decovil Lite fused to the back of that, centered. Now you have to excuse, I haven't trimmed out my woven interfacing from these yet. This is my cell phone pocket lining. Again, I have it backed with SF101. I have my sectional slip pocket. I'm using some of my external fabric on this as well because I want it to have a contrast. Again, I haven't trimmed my woven interfacing from when I've used it, but I have that backed with SF101 for those two pieces. I have my faux flap pocket. I've done mine in, this is Allison glass fabric. I just love this. I'm doing my flap in cotton. I am so sorry that my camera is shaking. I am not sure why. Okay, it is what it is. And I have both the lining and the external backed with SF101. If you are using vinyl for this external pocket, you wouldn't have to put the woven interfacing on it. I have to remember what that is. I think this is for my slip pocket on the interior, and because there's two slip pockets in this. So again, I have that backed with SF101. My two pieces for my zipper pocket on the inside, and I have that backed with the SF101 as well. I like to use a zipper facing, so I've cut that out of my vinyl. My vinyl is Morpho leather from Emmeline Bags. This is the charcoal color. You're going to need two pieces for your handles. I'm going to put those aside because we're going to do those right away. Your gusset, and again I have Decovil Lite fused centered to that. My gusset lining piece with SF101 on the back. And then my piece for my crossbody strap. So there's quite a few pieces, but that's okay. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've never made this bag, so we are going to learn together as we go. So let's step forward and I'll get everything ready and I'll show you how we're going to put together our straps and connector pieces. All right, so I actually went ahead and I did my straps and my crossbody strap already. I am using the Tex 80, I believe it is, unicorn main thread from Wizard Stitchery. I only pull this out for special because it's very expensive to get shipped to Canada, but it's going to be so perfect with this bag, so I had to do it. So I went ahead and I did my straps, my handles, and I did my crossbody strap. Again, the pattern doesn't call for a detachable crossbody. I prefer mine to be, so I'm just making a little bit of an adjustment. So if you need to see how I made these, I do have classes on these on my Bag Makers 101 playlist. On how to make a crossbody strap, how to make the handles. I will put links to that down in the description below if you need to follow along and take that class to figure out how I made those. Next step is we need to make our connectors. So what you want to do is on all four pieces, you want to do a center. I just do a little dash line. You want to take some tape. This is the first time I've used this tape. This is the leather tape from cleanersupply.ca. It was actually fairly inexpensive. It's really, really sticky. My industrial machine doesn't seem to have a problem using it, but I don't think I'd use this on a domestic machine, but I just love how big the rolls are. Anyways, that's where I got this from. Never used it before. This is the first time. Worked well on my other straps. So what you want to do is you want to take your double-sided tape, put it down that line. Again, you don't have to use double-sided tape if you don't want to. You can just fold into that line. That's fine. Take the tape off and fold each of the long raw edges into that center line, like so. Oops. So you'll do that with all 4 of the connectors. And then what you would do next is you take this to the machine, and just like we did on the straps here, you're going to go with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down both sides on all 4 pieces. So that's a pretty basic technique. I'm not going to take that to my machine to show you. I'm just going to go off camera and do that, and then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, so those connectors are all done. I got my 2 long ones, my 2 short ones, and you can put those aside for now. The next thing you want to pull out, and I apologize, I missed cutting my cell phone backing piece. So this is something that I didn't go through when I said the pieces. I somehow missed it on my list, so I have cut it now. So what you need is your main panel, main front panel, your cell phone pocket lining, and your cell phone pocket backing. What you want to do is take your cell phone pocket lining and your main panel, right sides together. What I'm going to do, actually they should match up, I think, ish. Mine are a little bit off, it looks like, but it's going to work out fine. So you're going to line them up. What I did was I went ahead and on my back of my lining, just for a guide, I drew out a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance there, just because it's kind of hard to gauge that on the machine. So line them up. And we are going to clip them here so the right sides together. Take this to your machine and stitch along here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so that is done. So now what we want to do is we want to make small snips, so use your pinking shears on this seam allowance. So I'm actually just going to take my pinking shears and if not, you can just take your scissors and just do snips up to the stitch line without cutting the stitches, of course. And then what we want to do is we want to take this, flip it wrong sides together. Once that's all done, what I like to do is kind of roll it with my fingers, like so. I don't mind a little bit of the liming popping up because I think it gives it a little bit of a faux piping type feel. I just make sure it's nice and even. I use clips to kind of hold it in place. Roll those seams between your fingers. Get a nice crisp edge. Oops. Oopsies. Put over. So like so. So you got the wrong sides together, and I've left a little bit on top here for like a faux piping effect. You can roll it down further if you don't want that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch this with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along that curve. Okay, so there's my top stitching. And then the next step what we want to do is we want to take our cell phone back lining. We want to line it up with our pocket and with the top edge of our main panel. And what we're going to do is we're going to clip these sides together like so. Change this over. And down the other side as well. And the bottom as well, which I have to watch because mine's a little shorter than it should have been, or I cut my saw backing a little bit longer, but it'll get caught within that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm just going to hold this in place along the top. We're not going to stitch that just yet. And then just like when we're doing a zipper pocket, we're just going to fold this back and we're going to stitch along here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to take you over to the machine and we'll do that. Okay, so I'm at my machine, and what we're going to do is we are going to stitch along here. I'm actually going to go a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance just because I cut my piece a little too shy here and I can't quite get a 3/8 there, so I'm just going to go 1/4. It shouldn't make too big of a difference. And I hope I have a new camera holder here to try to give you this good angle, so it may be a little shaky and I apologize if it is. I'm just still trying to figure out the best setup for this. So So that's what we got, and then along the top here we're just going to do little tack stitches to hold that pocket in place. Just within the seam allowance, about 1/8 of an inch or so. And on the other side as well. And again, showing my mistakes. It looks like I didn't back stitch where my top stitching was, but it's a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance there, so it is going to get caught in there, so I'm not too worried about that. So we have our tack stitches in place here to hold that. We have our zipper all done, so we have our cell phone pocket complete. And believe it or not, my phone is almost dead, so I'm going to take my lunch break and charge my phone, and when we come back, not that you know that this time because there's going to be no break in this anyways. So yeah, that's that front main panel. That's our hidden cell phone pocket, and we'll be back in a bit to go on to the next step. Okay, so now what you're going to want to pull out are your faux flap pockets. I went ahead and installed my nameplate already. Behind the prongs, I put a little bit of Decovil Heavy, and then I've just put some duct tape or Gorilla Tape over top of the prongs just to make sure that they don't wear and tear on the backside of the other lining pieces. So we're going to start with one, so choose one of them. I'm going to mark one with you, and then I'll go off camera and mark the other. So what we want to do is we want to mark 5 inches up from the bottom right there, and right there. And we actually only want it to go for about an inch, so I'm going to go like this. So an inch in from each side, like so. And what we want to do at that inch mark is we want to go from that, okay, measure 3/4 inch inward from each outer edge. Okay, so we want to, from each outer edge, measure in 3/4 inch. And draw down. A little bit off. And we want to draw down to that 5-inch mark that we just did. Okay, and then we want to draw a 3/8 seam allowance from that line there. So I'm just going to use my ruler, adjust accordingly around that curve. And then again, 3/4 inch in this way, and draw a line. So I'm just going to make my lines a little darker here. And then we want to do the same. We want to draw a 3/8 inch curve along this inside curve here. So I'm going to just take my ruler, put it along the 3/8 mark again. All I'm doing is lining up my 3/8 mark on my ruler. When I get to the curvy parts, I'm just slightly turning it and just doing little dash lines at each of those points where I'm putting the 3/8, and it should help you curve around nicely. I know it seems strange that we're drawing a line with a straight ruler around a curve, but just take it each little curve by each little curve and you will get a perfect line. So we have something that looks like this. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to take some 1/4 inch tape. So I'm just using tape now to use up the stuff I've bought on Amazon. And we are going to run the tape on the outer edge of each line drawn, it says. So let me outer edge of each line, John. Okay, so right along here. And this is a different process for me. I've never done anything quite like this before. So not the curve, the one we did around the curve, but the first line that we drew right down to that 5-inch mark and cut it off right there. So you can see right there is where we cut it off. We did not need to do this 1-inch mark. It was just an approximation of where we wanted to put that line. All right, so just down the sides we have that tape running down to where our 3/8 of an inch and our 3/4 inch or seam allowances that we drew meet. So go ahead and do that with your other panel, and then we will move to the next step. All right, so now I have that done on both pieces. So we're gonna, don't worry about this double-sided tape. That's gonna come into play in a little bit here. So you wanna take your two panels and we wanna put them right sides together. Match your centers, and we are going to clip them just to that 5-inch mark. We're not going to be sewing this part, we're just going to be sewing this curve here. Should match up on each side, and they do. It's a little bit longer than that one. So I got a little bit of an uneven curve here, just it's again from my cutting. So I'm just going to make them match. There we go. Okay, so again, we just clipped to that 5-inch line, and then we're also going to clip together around this curve. And I like it when I actually match up. That means I didn't cut it bad everywhere. I'm a little bit off here. There we go. Okay, and then we are going to take this over the machine and we are just going to sew these curves. Okay, so again, we are not going to be sewing along the straight edges. We're just going to be sewing along the curve edges. If you see any glistening on my tabletop, it's because before every project, I always oil my machine. So we're a bit oily in some places. So yeah, we're just going to sew along the guidelines that we made for ourselves with those lines. And then we're going to do the same with the curve at the top. All right, so now that that's done, we want to take our pinking shears and just trim those seam allowances down that we just did. And again, just on these corners, we just want to do a little extra snipping to just before the stitch line around the corners, just to help get that nice curve when we do turn it out. And the other side. Just like that. So you can see I've got just little teeny tiny additional tiny snips in there. Okay, and then we want to turn our pocket right side out from these unsewn sides. I just love this Allison glass fabric. It's so pretty. Okay, and because I am using cotton fabric, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this to my iron and I'm just going to press out my curved areas here just to make them lay nice and flat. And if you are using vinyl, you're just going to roll these seams, kind of like what we did with that top seam there. Roll the seams like that and clip it to hold it in place. But I'm going to go ahead and press this and then... All right, so I pressed my curves. I've gone ahead and done one side. As I said, this is the first time I've done this pattern, so I wanted to practice doing that. I'll tell you right now, I was a little bit of a dummy because I pressed it and it erased those draw lines I had done because I had done them in a friction pen, so the heat took them away. But luckily, we know that our double-sided tape is ending right at that 3/4 inch line, so I'm just using the end of the double-sided tape to be my marking point to where we're folding this in. So what we want to do is we want to remove on the lining side first the double-sided tape, and we are going to fold that raw edge into, you can see some of the line is here still. For the lining side, I'm going to fold it in just slightly over that draw line, and that's just to make this a little bit shorter than the exterior, just ever so slightly, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So normally I would have a line here, but again I erased it, so I'm just putting it just slightly over where my double-sided tape ends, like so. So that's enclosing that raw edge. Now you're going to flip it over. We're going to do the same with the exterior, but you're going to go just to the line. You're not going to go over, or if you're like me and you erased your double-sided or your line, you're going to go to the edge of the double-sided tape. So just press it in. I'm feeling with my fingers to see where my tape is because I messed that up. Like so. Okay, and then I'm just taking some clips to hold that unsewn edge. You can see they're all folded in like this. And just take some clips to hold those edges together. I probably could have just done this first. So I'm going to take the clips off. And I'm going to take some double-sided tape onto the inside of that. Again, I didn't need to use the clips. I could have just done this from the beginning. And then make sure that these meet nice and press them together using that tape to secure them in place. Kind of like what I was doing with the clips, but we're going to do it with tape. So that's one side done, like that. The same on the other side. And if you're using a double-sided tape that isn't super strong, such as Ritz Wash Away Wonder Tape, which is usually good for domestic machines, it doesn't gum up your needle too bad, you may want to just put a couple of clips just to ensure that everything stays in place. But my tape should be strong enough to hold it all together. That. You can see this is slightly shorter on the side, which is good. It's a little bit too short there. Let's bring it over just a little bit more. So we want it to be able to be caught in the top stitching. So you don't want it to be too far out, just very, very close. So it still gets caught in that top stitching. All right, so that takes us to page 31 of the pattern. Let's move on to page 32. Okay, so the last little segment I did not record, but all I said in it was you were going to go around the curved edge and the whole outside and do a 1/8 of an inch top stitch all the way around, which is what I did here. So go ahead and do that. So you have top stitch along this curve here, and you've top stitch along the outside of that, and now we have our faux flap. Now you want to grab your main front panel. That's the one where we had this hidden pocket here. We want to flip that pocket out of the way, and on our pattern piece we have our hidden connectors. Now I'm going to attempt to do these hidden connectors the way I like to do hidden connectors. I don't have a hand sewing needle on hand. I probably should have read through the pattern first before I noticed that. I only have one really dull one, and I don't have a thimble, so I'm going to do it my way. I will show you how I do it my way as we go, but feel free to follow Alexis's pattern as well to how to do that. So for my way, we are not going to draw out this whole triangle. We're only going to draw out this line. Now, if you have used cotton for your main panel and not vinyl, You cannot do this my way. It will not work for you. You need to use a non-fraying fabric, as there could be a raw edge in the end. So yeah, do it her way if you're using cotton. I'm using vinyl, so I'm hoping that this will work. I guess we will find out together. So I'm just gonna draw out that 1-inch line across there. Yeah, again, if you're doing it her way, you're going to do the whole thing. If you want to see how to do this, I will put a link down below. I did the Luz Marina tutorial, and I did do the hidden connectors the way they are written in this pattern. So I will try to remember to go and get a link to that and the timestamp where I showed you how to do it the way, the Oro Rosa way of doing it. But for now, we're just going to do it my way. Okay, let me double check. Mine should be 3/4, 3. Okay, so I'm going to take, you gotta carefully cut your lines. So if you're doing it her way, you'd be cutting the hourglass. You wouldn't be cutting this bottom line. My way, you cut the bottom line. Her way is a really good way to do it. Again, I just don't have I don't hand sew ever, and I don't have a hand sew needle that I can find here. So, you know what, that's not working for me. I might have to use my rotary cutter. My X-Acto blade is not very sharp. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I've got my little slits there. Let's move on to the next step. So it says apply a short piece, approximately 1.5 inches, of double-sided tape to the bottom, 1/4 inch up of the faux. Okay. So on the back side of this panel here, we want to measure up about 1/4 inch and take some double-sided tape. Again, my table gets messier and messier as we go. Okay, and we're just going to sure, that works. Okay. Okay, so now we want to position this about 1 inch up. Is that right? 1 inch up from the bottom main panel. And stick that tape now. The sides should be, they should be placed about 1.25 inches away from the sides. So I'm just going to use my rulers kind of to help me guide where I'm sticking this. I'm going to put this 1.25. That's 1.25 right there, and 1 inch up. Make sure this is nice and straight. Okay. Now let's double check that this is about 1.25. On this side, 1.25. I think we are okay. I think that's it. That would be why I keep thinking it's off a little bit. I didn't quite cut it straight. I'm not having much luck with my cutting today. Okay. Again, I like to keep my mistakes in so you guys can see how I'm working through it. And 1.25, I think we got it. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take my larger clips here. I've got these really long clips just to make it so it's not going to move on me. Whoops. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and going to read the instructions and see what our next step is. Okay, so I just wanted to go ahead and do this first one to make sure that my way of doing the hidden strap connector is going to work. So I think it will. It's actually going to be enclosed, so that's good. And I'll show you how I did it. Again, definitely follow the way in the pattern. It is a great way of doing it. The only reason I'm not doing it that way right now is because I don't have a hand sewing needle. I don't, so I'm winging it at this point in time. Okay, so we're looking to get this going like this. So what you want to do is grab one of your rectangular rings. You're going to flip your panel upside down. Make sure we're still straight. I hope so. Yep. Okay. Want to put our ring on this way. What we want to do is, I actually used my table a little bit here. So from the main panel here, we want the fold of this to be 1 1/4 inches. So right there. So I'm just going to take, so from here to that fold is 1 1/4 inches. I can go up just a little bit more. So from the fold to where that starts, 1 1/4, and I am going to put a clip on there to hold that in place. Now again, this is my way. Refer to my Les Marina tutorial to see how to do the hidden connectors the Oro Rosa way. Again, the only reason I'm not doing it in this tutorial is because I don't have a hand sewing needle. And I know that sounds terrible, but I don't do hand sewing. So, okay, so now flip it back over. And we're going to take that. So we got our clip holding in place. I'm going to put it in through that slit right there that I cut. I'm going to put this in like this. You want it to be somewhat tight. Again, my way is going to leave a raw edge where her way would not. I just need a little bit more space there. Not quite enough. Slid it in through that slit there and pull it through nice and taut. So they should be pretty much the same height, and I have it pulled through that side there. Like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my machine. I guess I can take you there. Again, this is not how it's done in the pattern. So all I'm going to do is, and this is where that raw edge is going to be left. That's why this wouldn't work so great with cotton. And it may be open within the pocket. So if you're using cotton, definitely do it the way it's written in the pattern. But I'm going to go and I'm going to top stitch just above the slit right there, and then top stitch just below the slit as well to hold that in place. So it'll look something like that. So I'll take you over to the machine to show you what I'm going to do that. Yeah, but again, follow the Les Marina tutorial. The hidden connectors are done the exact same way to show you how to do this. So I'm going to fold this front pocket out of the way. Make sure that's nice and tight. Fold this out of the way and go right along the top above that slit. Just 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go a couple times over it. 4 times actually. So it's like that, and now I'm going to go just under it, under that slit, same thing, about 1/8 of an inch. I said this is all hidden by the pocket, so but as you can see, there is a raw edge right there. So if you are using cotton fabric for this, you definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so that is what we got. We're going to go back to the table and work on our rivet placement. Okay, now we're on to an easy part. So what we want to do is we want to, this pocket here, this is just a faux pocket. Like it isn't actually a pocket. The pocket is going to be hidden in behind it, but we want to secure this to the main panel. So what we are going to do is we are going to measure down. I'm going to take my Choco, measure down 2 inches from the top panel. So the top panel is this back piece here, 2 inches. 2 inches. I'm just going to put a mark there with my chalk. 2 inches down, and on this side 2 inches down like that. We are going to flip this pocket out of the way so we're not sewing over it, and we are going to sew with 1/4 of an inch from that chalk line there all the way down and around the bottom here and back up to the other side here. So that's going to give us 2 lines of top stitching. It's going to secure our things back here so they're not visible. These here are going to be enclosed. So yeah, I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch top stitch from that 2 inch mark all the way down and around and back up. I'm not going to take that to the machine. It's basic top stitching. Just do it 1/4 of an inch away from the edges of. All right, so you can see we got our double line of stitching all the way around, securing this faux flap. So that part is done. So now we are going to work on putting some rivets in. So first thing we want to do is centered. So this is about a 1 inch strap here. So we'll go in about 1/2 inch down from here. I'm sorry, 5/8 of an inch down from there and 1/2 inch over this way. So 5/8 down, 1/2 inch over this way. Make a little dot on that side. We're going to do the same on this other side. I'll bring you in closer here. So 5/8 of an inch down, 1/2 inch in. And I'm going to put a little dot there about center. And then I'm going to take my leather punch and punch through all of those layers. Same with on the other side. And because I am using fabric, I'm going to take my fray check and I'm going to just put a little dollop of fray check on the front. And I'm also going to put it on the back of the hole. And then we are going to, you want to make sure you're catching both sides of the where we folded over. So you're going to take your medium rivets and we are going to set them. So push it through both holes here. And on the other side. And you can hammer these by hand if you don't have a rivet press, but I do have a rivet press. My rivet press is from Gold Star. And just set those 2 rivets in. And these are the medium rivets. Just like that. And like that. So we have those 2 rivets set. Now next we are just going to punch holes. We're not going to actually set rivets in this. So we want to measure down 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge here. And we're going to be doing the rivet holes on this side. So we want that to be about a 1/2 inch in again, so centered with this rivet, and we want 3/4 of an inch down. So 3/4 of an inch, about a 1/2 inch in. I'm going to take my marking pen and just put a mark. And we want to do the same 2 1/8, that's hard to say, 2 1/8 of an inch down. And I'm just going to do another little mark right there. I'm going to do the same on the other side. 3/4. And then 2 1/8. Right there. So I'm just going to look to make sure they're somewhat even. So my first 2 holes are there and there, which looks about right. And there and there, that looks about right. I'm just going to double check this one. 2. Underneath. Okay, and then we are going to punch holes through all the layers. So I am going to use my lid, actually no, I'm going to just use this here. Let's go ahead and punch through all the layers with that. And on the other side. So it's punched through both sides. I'm also going to put a little bit of fray check on my front pieces here because I am using fabric. And I can take off these, and you can see we have the forming of our inside pocket here, our hidden inside pocket, and then we have another pocket that looks like it's going to go there. This is just so cool. So that is our front panel done. All right, now we are going to work on the back panel. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your back panel. Again, I have it interfaced with Decovil Lite centered on the back, and your 2 back connectors. So the first thing I am going to do is from one of the raw edges, I am going to take my Chaco and my ruler, and I'm going to make a line that's 8.5 inches down from the top. If I can make it nice and straight. Eight and a half. And I can eyeball it and do it the same on this side here. So from here to here is 8.5 inches. And it is. Now, again, I am doing my invisible straps, my invisible connectors different because, as I said before, I don't have, as sad as it is, a hand stitching needle. I really do not like hand stitching. But again, down in the description, I've put how Oro Rosa does her hidden connectors. I have that in my Les Marina tutorial, so that'll be down in the description if you want to see that. I'll also put a link to my class on how I do hidden connectors. But I'll show you how I do the hidden connectors here today. So on the wrong side of your back panel here, so I have cut open on my pattern piece that slot at the bottom of the pattern piece. And I'm just going to mark that 1 inch line using my pattern piece as my guide. And same with on the other side. Okay. And And I'm going to take my rotary cutter and just cut that 1-inch line. You want it to be slightly snug. Better to be too small than too big. You can always cut it if you need to through all the layers like that. Okay, so then what we're going to do, push this right side up. We want to place a piece of double-sided tape on here. So you've marked that line, which we've done, on the right side of the connectors. We want to put a piece of tape 2 inches up from the opposite side, so the shorter side. A strip that is about 1.5-ish inches long on the right side. So we have our mark right here, that's 8.5 inches down, and then on this shorter side, we're going to put the double-sided tape there. And then we're going to put it back in through this hole, like I said. And we're going to line up that line at the top there. So I have it nice and lined up. And then we're going to remove that double-sided tape. And we are going to stick it down. I am also going to just add just a couple clips here just to hold it in place for now. It shouldn't go anywhere with that double-sided tape, but just to make sure. And then we're going to do the same with the other side. Okay, before we head to the machine, we're going to just do a couple more marks before we get there because it's easier to show them here than on the machine. So we want to measure 1.5 inches down from the top panel, and we want to make a line across there. And then we want to measure 3 inches down from the top panel and make another line there, and do the same on the other side. So 1.5 and 3. And what this is going to do is give us some guides for, we're going to do rectangle sewing there to secure these straps even further. So I'm going to put those back on there. So what we're going to need at the machine is you're going to need a ruler, you're going to need the back panel we've just done, and 2 rectangular rings. So now we will head over to the machine. We are at the machine. So first thing I'm going to do is right along this slit here where this raw edge is, just above it, like a scant 1/8 of an inch, we are going to put in some stitching. And you want to try not to go over the strap because you don't want those threads to show. I'll show you what I mean here. I love that this rainbow thread is so colorful so you can actually see what I'm doing, but you can see, excuse the oily mess, I did not go past the strap. It's staying right on the inside of the strap. So you want to do that on the other side as well, right along that raw edge. Again, this is my way of doing hidden strap connectors. Ooh, I almost went over, but I didn't. Okay. Okay, and then what we also want to do is along these chalk lines that we drew, we just want to do a box just to give it a little bit more stability or security, I guess. So I'm going to go across, needle down, pivot around, down to that other chalk line, needle down, pivot around, and across. And back up and back stitch. And these are not going to be visible on the bag. It's just to give a little bit more security for the straps. And then do the same on the other side. So we have something that looks like that. Now, similar to what we did on the front panel, again, all of the shininess is because I just oiled my machine. So I'll do this one first. We want to take our rectangular ring, put it on the strap like so, and we want, I think it's 1 1/4. Let me double check. Yes. So from our back panel to where our rectangular ring fold is, we want there to be 1 1/4 inches. So I'm just going to put this at 1 1/4 inches and line up that fold, which is about there. So we're folding the strap back down on itself, and we're going to have the right side facing up. So we have that like that. Then we're going to take this end here, and I'm going to stick it in that slot again. Like so. And pull it nice and taut, but not too taut. We want it to lay flat. Double check that that's 1 1/4, and we are. I'm just going to, so as you can see, that's where we're going to have that raw edge there, doing it my way. So this does not work with cotton. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch along this edge with a scant 1/8 of an inch to hold that in place. And these stitches will be visible. I'm just going to take my lighter because I'm using a nylon poly blended polyester. I can never remember what the thread is called. And I'm just going to melt my ends there and along that raw edge. Now along that raw edge, if you wanted to, mine's not really visible, but I might just take a little bit of edge coat and just go along there. I'll probably do that just to hide that whiteness of that. And there is the first one. So now we will do the next one. Okay, continuing with the straps. Now I did go ahead and put, you can see how it's no longer white there. I did put a little bit of edge coat there just to color that in. If you don't have edge coat, you can always use a Sharpie pen if you're using black, or you can just leave it if you are doing the hidden connectors like I did. Okay, now we're going to do some marking again for rivets. So what do I want to use? So we want to take some marks. So our strap is 1 inch long, so we want to place them 1/2 inch in on each side. And we want to mark them at, from the top, 1/2 inch in. So I'm just going to kind of place this from the top of the rectangle ring here. We want to put a mark at 5/8, 2 1/8, 3 3/8, and of course my ruler's not long enough, so like these. I'm also going to just take a clip to hold it like that in place. So it might have been better to use a longer ruler. So we got 5/8, 2 1/8, 3 3/8, and 5 1/4. And we are going to punch holes at those marks. And then what we want to do is we want to take our medium rivets, and we're only going to set a rivet in this very top one here. So it's not going through the back panel at all, it's only going through the strap. And that is with a medium size rivet. Okay, and then go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other side. Okay, so that is done. Now we are also going to set our rivets, medium size rivets, in position number 4, I believe it is. Yes, so in these bottom ones here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and we will put on those side detail straps. Okay, so we've set our medium rivets at that 4th place mark and the top ones. Now you want to take your side detail straps, and we're going to do some marking on those as well. So you want to make a mark centered. So let's see, this is 3/4. I'm going to just eyeball it at about 1/4 of an inch. See my pen there, 1/4 of an inch, and then another one at 3 1/4 inches. About center. So like so, you can see my little dots. There's one there, and do the same on the other side. 1/4 and 3 1/4. And then we want to punch holes on those marks. Okay, so now we're going to take where we have a 1/4 inch and this one down here, and we're going to take our, I think so that's hole number 3 we're working with, and we're going to use large rivets for this. They just have a little bit of a longer stem so they can go through more fabric. So we're going to see how we have this side sewed down. That's where we did the box. So we're going to put the rivet through there like that. And where the 1/4 inch mark is there, we're going to put it through there as well. And then we're going to put it through the back side hole like so. Now I'm also, for added security, this is just little scraps of Decovil Heavy. I'm going to punch a hole and put it there as well. Not setting the rivet just yet, just clipping on the back. So it's something that looks like this. Now we want to make sure that this is sitting at a 90-degree angle. So we want it to be perfectly straight. Move this up if you want to while we still have it's looking pretty straight there. I am just going to put a clip to hold that in place. And now that we have that at a somewhat straight, actually maybe it's not straight. Check it again. Oh, it is. And then we can, oops, set that rivet. Like so. Now we're going to do the same with the other side. Okay, so that's all done. So we still have this second rivet hole is just hanging out. We're going to leave it. You can put this back panel aside for now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our exterior gusset and installing our connectors for the crossbody strap. Again, I'm doing my crossbody strap a little bit different because I want it removable. So I'm going to be installing it with D-rings rather than rectangle rings. I'm not going to show this in the video. It's hidden connectors again. So you're going to measure down on the pattern piece where your connector is going to go, make your mark, and that's where you're going to do your hidden connectors. So you can either do them the Oro Rosa way, which again, I've linked that down in the description, or you can do it my way, which is also linked down in the description. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to install those, and then we'll come back and start putting this exterior together. Okay, before we move on, I just want to apologize for the last two segments there. I forgot to put my lapel mic back on my collar and it was sitting on my table, so my sound was all wonky and annoying. I apologize for that. I have to find a way to remember to put my mic back on, but it is what it is. We'll just move forward. All right, so I've gone and I've installed my hidden connectors on both sides of my gusset. Next thing we want to do is mark where we're going to do the rivet hole. So we want to go, let's see here, 2 1/8 in from the short side of the gusset and 1 3/4 in from the long side and make a mark. So right there. And punch a hole. We are not setting the rivet just yet. We're just punching the hole. Okay. And we want to do the same on the other side. So 2 1/8 down. And 1 3/4 in. Whoops. Which is right there. And then punch that hole. Perfect. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take our gusset, our back panel and our front panel, and we want to find the centers. So the way I find the centers is I just fold it in half. I'll do this side first. And I do little snips that will be within the seam allowance. Do it on the other side. I believe in the pattern sheet gives measurements. I will double check to see, and we can compare. Okay, so she says the center is about 14.5, and I'm at 14.5, so we're good. And then for the back, we're just going to fold it in half. Again, a little snip in the center. I'm also going to do a little snip on the top as well. You can use a marking pen. I prefer the snips because the snips don't rub away or disappear, and they don't show later because they're within the seam allowances. So do the same thing on the front. Being careful not to snip this front pocket. Kind of fold it down and out of the way to find your center. Again, it would have been a lot easier if I had done this before sewing all the pieces on, but that's okay. Right there. And snip. Very important, don't snip this front pocket. You have to fold this down. Okay, we're very close to being done this exteriors. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll start with the front one. And just like putting on any gusset piece, we're going to mark that center with the center bottom. Right sides together. And we are going to clip it. I usually put just a couple to hold that in place. And then I bring the side up like this, and I'll put it along the side. And clip it. And then up the other side like this. And then evenly distribute that fabric all the way down. Now when you get to the corner, it may look like it's not going to fit, and that's because we're taking a straight piece and we're trying to make it curve. So what we're going to do is on the gusset only, we're just going to do small clips, snips within the seam allowance, and this is going to help the fabric be able to spread itself around that corner evenly so it fits, it doesn't pull. You can see I have all those little snips there, and when I push it up against it, it starts being able to go around that curve. Oop. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, and then you're going to continue that around the other side as well. Okay, so we have the front panel and the gusset put together. We are going to sew down here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I like to use my little magnetic thing. I know I don't have any markings on here, so I just use that as a guide. I know about where my 3/8 inch mark is. Make sure you're not sewing through your pocket, and then have at her. Okay, so there we have it. You can kind of pop it out, make sure all your corners are good. I can kind of tell on the inside that we're looking good. And then what we want to do is we want to cut that seam down to about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now you want to take your back panel and do the same, put them right sides together. Make sure these side straps are inside and not going to be caught within the seam. And go ahead and clip around and then sew this side on with a 3/8 of an inch seam. Okay, so we're all inside out now. We can turn our bag out. so you can see. Push out all your curves. Oh, she's so pretty. So this is what we have so far. So now what we want to do is we want to work with these straps. So now we have our hole here and we have our rivet hole here. We're going to match those up, and we are going to take a medium rivet. We are going to put it through the side, decorative side strap, through the hole on our gusset. I am also going to install a piece of Decovil Heavy just for a little extra stability on the other side of that rivet. So I don't know if you can see it right here. Just put that there. Put my backing on. And then install that rivet. It's probably hard to see what I'm doing here, but okay. There we go. So we have something that looks like that. Now on this other side, we want to, I'm going to mark about 1/2 inch here. Well, we want to fold this over about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put it along the inch mark here. And I am going to, if I can find my chalk, the wrong side of it, just mark 1 inch. So when I fold it in, that is 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to punch a hole at around 1/4 inch, catch both of those layers. So it's like that. And then where we had our hole along the bottom here, we're going to take a large rivet. We're going to stick it through here and through there. So it's in there. And we got our first hole here and our second hole here. We're going to put this through that hole all the way through. You're going through lots of layers. That's why you need the large rivets here. And set that rivet. And that's what we have there. So go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, so there is our exterior done, all but the zipper. So you will notice we still have these holes here, and on the back, that is okay. We're going to put those rivets in at the very end. We do not want them to be riveted right now. So this is the exterior done, minus the zipper, which we will get to later on. Now it's time to work on the lining, but first off, I am actually going to go and install my zipper pocket. I am doing it a little bit different than what's in the pattern. I'm going to do it as per my class that I have in my Bake Makers 101 class. I'll put it down in the description for you because I like to have a vinyl zipper overlay for that. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that, leave the bottom of that open for the turning of the bag. We'll come back and we'll work on the slip pocket and the lining and get the zipper on, and this bag is so close to being done. Okay, so we're back and we're working on the slip pockets in the lining, and as I said previously, I went through and I did my zipper pocket already because I wanted to do it with a vinyl overlay. I do have a tutorial for this down, I put it down in the description. And I left the bottom of it open for turning later on. Now we're going to work on the two different styles of slip pockets that we have. So we have the one that has the curved edges. What we want to do there is we want to put them right sides together. Whoops, you're going to clip them. Of course, I, again, did not cut this very well because you can see they're different sizes, but that's okay. We can trim that up later. So again, slip pockets are so very simple. So what you're going to do is with them right sides together, you're going to take this to the machine. You're going to stitch this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to flip them wrong sides together like this. You're going to press it, and then you're going to top stitch along the top here with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm not going to do that on camera. It's pretty straightforward to do it. So again, right sides together, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Turn it wrong sides together, give it a good press, and then do a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for this slip pocket. For the other slip pocket, we're going to fold it in half, right sides together, and you're going to clip it. Like so. And we're going to keep marks on the bottom here. That's about 4 inches or so for turning. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start here. We're going to do 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oh, sorry, start here. 3/8 of an inch seam allowance up here and across here, back stitch. And then put your needle down again here, back stitch, and up this side. And then you're going to go and you're going to snip your seam allowances along the sides, not along this bottom, because we want to keep the length there for when we turn. Once we've done that, you're going to turn it through the opening, press, and then top stitch along the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and come back and we will add this to our lining pieces. Okay, so there's the slip pocket. So this is the one we stitched only part way, and there's the open bottom. I turned under the seam allowance and pressed it really good and top stitched along the top. And then this is the other one where they're wrong sides together, and I've top stitched along the top. So now what we're going to do with these is the panel that has the zipper. I've already gone ahead and notched my bottom notch there, but this is where we are going to put the square slip pocket. So what we want to do, what I do usually is we're going to put it 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. So we're going to put it along here, and I see the number, I have the 3-inch mark at my middle section here. I just put my ruler on the 3, so I know that that's where I want my center to be. And then I take my pocket and I fold it in half, right sides together like this, and I line it up along my ruler like so. And I open it up, and then I know it is somewhat centered. We can test it here. It's 2 1/4, and that's a little bit off. So we'll just move it over a little bit. Get it so it's nice and centered. There we go, just like that. And 3/4 from the bottom, and then we are going to pin this in place. Excuse me while I reach for my pins. Now this probably would have been easier to do before putting in the zip pocket. I obviously did not read ahead to see this. So when I sew this on, I'm just going to have to make sure I flip that pocket up and out of the way. So when I take this to the machine, this pocket here, I'm going to make sure I flipped up and out of the way so I don't sew on it. And we are going to not sew along the top here because that's where our top stitching is, but we're going to do an 1/8 of an inch top stitch down this side. along the bottom, which is going to close up our opening here, and back up the top and back stitch, and then that's going to give us our pocket for that one. For our other one, again, I like to mark my centers. It makes it easier when we're putting it all together later. I'm just going to snip my centers. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, because this is going to be a divided pocket. You could have as many pockets as you like. We're going to do it as she's done it in the pattern. I just got to find her measurements. There we go. Okay. So measuring in from the left, we're going to do a 1-inch line. And then we're going to do a 2 1/4 line. I'm just making sure it's nice and straight with the top here. That's 2 1/4. And then we're going to do a 6 1/4 inch line. So that's going to give us a couple different, we're going to have like a pocket for pens and then 2 larger pockets here. So I've got those all drawn there. I'm going to take this and set it on top of my panel, my other panel that doesn't have the zipper. I'm actually going to find the center of this one as well and snip it. And then clip it. Oh, that one's broken. Now you can see, because again, I didn't do my cutting very good. It's a little bit longer here, but I'm not too worried about that because it's going to catch it in my seam allowance later and take it all in. So if it's a little bit shy, I'm okay with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to take this to my machine. We are not going to sew along this top section, but I'm going to go down. You can see my lines there. I'm going to baste it here. I'm going to go all the way down this side. When I come to this line, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to go up this line, and then I'm going to spin it around again and come back down this line, and then I'm going to continue across this way, go up this line, pivot, come back down this line. That's just giving it a little bit more security and strength because these pockets will be used a lot. Come across here again, go up this line, pivot, come back down this line, and then baste the rest of the way up the side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and when we come back we're going to be putting the lining together. Okay, so that's done. So you can see I have my divided pockets there, so they're different sizes. This one will be good for pens, and then 2 larger pockets. And then this one, I made sure that I kept my pocket out of the way. So we got another one here, and now the bottom is all closed off nicely. So our 2 panels are done. Okay, so now we're going to attach the gusset, the lining gusset, onto our lining pieces. So just like we did on the exterior, we're going to find our centers. Again, I'm going to clip them. We've already found our centers on the main panels. So on the side that has the zipper pocket, we are going to clip it all the way around exactly like we did with the main panel or the exterior. So you'll find the centers, you'll find your top and match up the tops this way. All the way down, and same with this way. And I'm not going to show you all of this because it's just like the exterior. So once you have it all clipped, you're going to go ahead and you're going to stitch all the way around and across the bottom and up the other side with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now let's say that we have that done. This is all sewn on. So we're going to take the other panel, the panel with the slip pockets like this. We're going to do exactly the same thing, except for we are going to leave about how many inches does she say to leave? She says to leave the bottom fully open. So I'm going to leave open, I'm just going to put lines that I'm going to open from here to here. So when I go to sew around, this is all clipped together. We're going to sew all the way around and to the side here. And we're going to back stitch. We're going to leave this whole bottom section open. We're not going to sew this area here. And then where the side starts again here, we're going to back stitch and sew up the other side with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And what that's doing is once it's open, we have this bottom open and we're going to be able to turn our bag through that later. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I'm going to fully sew the zipper pocket panel on all the way around, the other pocket leaving the bottom completely open for turning. Okay, so there's our lining all together. So on the one side, we have this big opening in the bottom for turning the bag. We have the bottom of our zipper pocket open for sewing up the bottom of the bag once we turn it. And that is how she's going to look. Now we're on to what I think is the hardest part of the bag, and that is the zipper. So I like to cut my zipper a little bit longer than the pattern says because I can always cut it shorter. I'm using Zipper by the Yard. I don't think I mentioned that my zipper is kind of an iridescent type of zipper. My zipper and my zipper pulls I got from Blue Cala. The rest of the hardware is from Emmeline Bags, but my zipper and zipper pulls are from Blue Cala. So I'm just going to take my lighter and I'm going to singe the ends of the zipper tape so they stop fraying. And I am going to actually pull my zipper right apart, but what I like to do before then is on the back side, I like to do a line straight across, and I'll show you later why I do that. It just helps get the zipper pull on nice and straight later on. So as long as that line matches up when we put the zipper pull on, it'll be straight. But I'll show you how I do that later. It's something new that I've just started doing, and it seems to be working pretty good for me. So I'm not putting my zipper pull on right now. I am going to take this side and pull it apart a little bit like this, because we are going to want to turn the ends of the zippers to 90 degrees. So the way I do that is I kind of pull it down this way and I fold it upon itself like so. And then I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm just going to tack stitch this. You can do it with a needle and thread as well, but I just do it on my machine to tack stitch it. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, kind of pull it like this and fold it in upon itself and then tack stitch right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back and we'll get this onto the exterior of the bag. Okay, so again, the rainbow really shows, the rainbow thread really shows what I did there. So this is going to make it so when our bag is on, it's not going to fall off. So now I'm going to tear those right apart, and we are going to attach it to the exterior of our bag. So what we want to do is we want to mark 3/4 of an inch in from the center. So I'm going to take on the bag these two seams right here. I'm going to match these two up like so, and that's going to give me my center right there. And then I am going to I'm going to snip it. So I'm going to clip that together there just to hold it together. And then I'm going to take my ruler, measure in 3/4 of an inch, and just do very, very small clips. Again, within the seam allowance, and that's just so they won't go away. And there's Miss Coco making her appearance. So you can see there, that's how I'm going to know where to start my zipper and when to taper it off. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Match up those seams of the side gusset where the gussets meet the front and the back. I'm going to put a clip there to hold it there so I can find my center there. And then from that center, I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch in and do some very small clips. And make sure it has gone on both sides. See, it didn't go on this one, so I'm going to make sure I go put one right there. So it's even on both sides, the front and the back. So you can take those off. Okay, so I like my bags to open left to right. So I'm going to take my end that's curled in, put it right sides together with the front of my bag, making sure I fold this pocket out of the way. Right sides together. And where that snip is right there is where I am going to line the edge of my zipper tape up. And I'm going to clip that in place all the way across. Being careful not to stretch the zipper. Again, making sure the zipper tape and the bag are right sides together. Okay, and when we get to about a 1/4 inch before that other slit or so, you want to start tapering the zipper downwards. So you can see how I've done it there. There's my slit, and I've started tapering it downwards. And that is, I'm going to take a large, just like that. So that means that zipper, end of that zipper is not going to get caught in the seam allowance when we do it. So now I'm going to take this to my machine, and I am going to sew across the zipper. I think she wants us to do it with a 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to double check. Well, she says to baste the zipper to it, but I think we're going to, yes. So I'm actually going to put my zipper foot on, and I want to be as close to the teeth as I possibly can, mainly to help avoid a wavy zipper. So I'm going to put my zipper foot on, and I'm going to sew this half of the zipper on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other side, but it will be opposite. So we will be putting this curved side on to the right, and then it will taper down on the left hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back and we will attach the lining. So that was a little hard to show just because the opening is so small and my camera doesn't quite get the right angle there. but we have sewn on the zipper on each side. And we had it taper down about a 1/4 inch from each of the little snips, so that's good. So now we are going to install our zipper pull just to make sure that we are not crooked. So my husband made me this. It's from one of his tie flying kits and just a fork. This is what I use to put my zippers on. If you have a zipper jig, that works too. So I just put my zipper pull on here. And this takes a little bit of finessing to do. So this is where, see, we have our 2 lines that we drew on the back of the zipper, and we want them to line up as close together so we know our zipper is straight. So how am I going to do this? It's going to go this were to zip up like this, my pulls would go like this. Okay. Okay. And you know what? I think I may have got it first try. Look how close that is. So we'll find out. We will zip this up. And we'll see how well we did. Come on. I am not, oh, we did pretty good. And you can see the zipper is fairly straight. I am so impressed with myself. Usually I get a really wavy zipper, but it isn't really at all. So that's good. If it was wavy, you would just take it back to your machine and stitch a little deeper in if you had waves, but I don't have any waves, so we are good. Okay, so I think, yes, I'm going to take my zipper pull back off. That was just to double check that my zipper was good. We'll be putting the zipper on again exactly like that once we have the lining attached. So yeah, that's my talented husband made me that. Or you could get a zipper jig, or you could do it by hand. But yeah, that trick of lining up that mark so you know your zipper's going on straight, it's fantastic. So okay, so now we want to attach this to our lining. So I like my zipper pocket to be at the back of the bag, so I'm going to situate it. So I'm putting my exterior into my lining, right sides together, like so. Now we have to make sure that, just like we did with our zipper, that this pocket stays out of the way and these stay out of the way. So we want to make sure we push those in like this so they're not going to get caught in that seam. Same with our tails from our zipper. We want to push those right in and down so we don't get those stuck in our seam as well. This is a little bit of finagling. Okay, so start with, and make sure your D-rings or rectangular rings are facing down. And then we're going to go around and we're going to match seams. So we're going to butterfly these open if you can and match it with the external seam that way. And clip. I like to start with those seams first for clipping around. We are so close to being done. Again, this is the hardest part of the whole bag, is this, if you struggle like I do with top zippers. But I am more of a recessed zipper type of girl. I prefer to do those, but all bags aren't made that way. Okay. Okay, so that's one side. I'm going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing. Make sure my tails are pushed down and my strap connectors are pushed down. Do not want those caught in the seam at all. Down we go. And match up those seams. Here. And this side. And then I like to match up. We have our center marks, so I got my center mark there and there, and I like to match those up as well. Put a couple clips. And same with on the other side. And then you can evenly distribute the fabric in between the rest of the clips. The front feels a little bit thick because we do have that pocket there. Oh, there's Miss Coco again. So evenly distribute that again. And the other side. Okay, everything is out of the way. Okay, so I'm not going to show this part on camera, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie this on the bed of my machine, and you can see the stitching from when we attach the zipper to the exterior. I am going to follow that line all the way around, turning my bag as I go like this and like this to attach the lining. So just follow that zipper, that original stitching line, and your zipper should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll come back, we'll turn it through, and then it's time for top stitching. So the moment of truth, you want to make sure you've caught everything everywhere around. And now we're going to pull it through this opening in the bottom, and hopefully our zipper is straight. Stray pieces here. Stick your hand in through the hole just to push out all those corners. Push the lining inside the bag. Double check that you caught everything. Now here's a mistake I see right away where I'm gonna have to turn it out and go and fix it, but see, I caught my zipper right in there, so I have to turn it back through the bottom and fix that. So I'm going to do that. I'm good there. That look, and all this side is good. So yes, what I have to do is I got to pick out those stitches. My zipper got stuck down inside there, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Once I've done that, I'm going to go around to my machine, and I am going to turn my bag inside out. I think this will be the easiest way to top stitch. So say my zipper is fixed, I still have to go and do that. But while I'm there, I am going to do this as well. So I'm going to turn my bag inside out like this, put this along the bed of my machine, and I am going to top stitch with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, pushing all this out of the way, all the way around this way, all the way around this way. The reason I am doing it this way is it's just going to be easier with such a small opening in the bag to stitch it from the inside. So again, you're going to top stitch it inside out, and you're going to be sewing down this way. But I have to go fix my zipper first. So I'm going to go fix my zipper. I am going to top stitch it. I am going to put my zipper pull back on, and then we'll be back to show the final riveting. Okay, so there's my zipper. It's a slight bit wavy, but do you know what? It's going to cover it up with this, so I'm not too worried about it. I was able to fix that one area. It just, the zipper kind of went up, but it's actually not too wavy. It's actually pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with it. So again, I put my zipper pull on. I put my zipper end on already. What we have to do now is to close up the inside of the bag. So that's where the opening in the pocket comes into play. You're going to open up your pocket. You're going to pull out that pocket lining like so. You're going to reach in. You're going to grab the opening in the bottom of the bag, and you're going to pull it through that pocket like so. And then we are going to clip closed the bottom of the bag. Like this. Match up those centers. And we are going to go from where we ended our stitching all the way across to where we ended our stitching here. Then we're going to stuff that back in through the pocket, and then we're going to top stitch our pocket close. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and we will do the final rivet, the final setting of rivets. All right, so our inside's closed up, our inside pocket is all closed up, and now we just have to deal with these last rivet holes that we had here. So what we want to do is we're going to be putting the rivets right through to the lining. So through this hole here, I'm just going to stick my hole punch in there. Lining. Same with on this side. And then for the front, she's recommending the large rivets for the front and the medium rivets for the back. So I am going to take a rivet, I'm going to stick it through, see if I can bring you in closer here. I'm going to stick it through this hole here. Make sure I get the hole in the strap here like that, and then go through the other holes. We're going through a lot of layers all the way to the back there. Put it in, and then we're going to set it. I know it's hard to see. So there it is. That one is set, and it's set onto the lining. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it on this side, and then I'm going to use medium rivets and do the exact same thing on the back side. All right, so there she is with all the rivets on it. Look how gorgeous she is. This is just, I do not know how Alexis's brain works when she comes up with these amazing patterns. So I went ahead and I installed my straps as well. I don't sew my straps on, I rivet them on with my rivet press. I've attached my crossbody strap, and she is done. My favorite thing about this bag is this faux flap. We got this pocket here, and then we got this other hidden pocket here. It's just, I don't know. It's just gorgeous. So I want to thank again Alexis from Oro Rosa for allowing me to do videos on her designs. Yeah, she is just very talented. So I hope this tutorial was useful for the Isolina, I think that's how you say it, crossbody bag. Again, if you haven't already, please do me a solid and subscribe. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Any questions, feel free to leave comments below, or you can even shoot me a message on my Facebook business page, or my email. All the information is down below. Thanks again. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.